Well, this week in our series Work Shift, we've heard from a lot of people struggling to find jobs. But since the 2008 recession, there's been a small uptick in the percentage of workers in Ottawa who are self-employed. Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson says for entrepreneurs, the future here is bright.
You look at a company like Shopify, they're going to double their size. They have to move out of the market. They're going across the street here to new office space from 150 to 300 employees. A worldwide sensation started by a couple of young guys who are entrepreneurs. And we're seeing that over and over. You see the hub, you see the Global Entrepreneurship Week, that we had more activities than any other city in Canada. And we're turning the corner. You know, we used to be this sort of gray flannel kind of government town that was comfortable with sort of the 9-to-5 environment. That's changed.
My next two guests have been part of that change. Marquis left a career in the public service with a buyout package and a dream of starting her own business. Last spring, she celebrated the grand opening of Half Full Glassware and Accessories, a retail store for coffee and wine lovers. Marie-France is with me now in studio, as is Jarrod Goldsmith. He founded the saxophone quartet Sax Appeal after getting a graduate degree in archaeology, followed by a series of contract jobs in the federal government. They're both with me now. Hello there.
Hello.
Marie-France, I'll start with you. Why did you decide, yes, I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
That's an excellent question. To be honest, it was always in the back of my mind since my 20s. But there's different paths to entrepreneurship, and I guess I needed to acquire some skills, some knowledge, some expertise through various jobs, which I acquired through the private sector, nonprofit organization, and more recently, the government. And that gave me all the cards that I felt were necessary for me to launch, manage, and grow a business.
But why did you want to grow a business in the first place? Because it's not in everybody's DNA, shall we say.
I agree, and I think there's two main factors there. The first one is I had an itch that became almost intolerable to be my own boss.
I think that's an important part, right? You wanted to be your own boss.
Absolutely, to be the master of my own destiny. That was important, and I also wanted to build something of significance, and that's what I'm achieving with Half Full.
Jarrod, how does that compare, for instance, with what was driving you at the
Well, actually, it's a bit of a different background for me. I never had the opportunity or the passion to become an entrepreneur. It just kind of fell in my lap. Having a degree like archaeology and having the opportunity to play music most of my life, I've been hearing my whole life, get a real job. Even now, my parents, every time I go back home, they're like, hey, things aren't working out. You need to get a real job. Like, well, 3 years later, I'm not going back.
Right. But the contract jobs in the government that you were...
they were entirely unrelated. Let's just say nobody's going out of the way to hire a musical archaeologist. So I was trying to find a job in some department. I wanted the day job. I wanted the benefits and the opportunity to have a career and then have the chance to play music on the side.
Okay.
So after bouncing around contract terms, casuals, agencies for almost 10 years, many different departments, I finally thought, well, at the time of my life to go into music, I got accepted into the Ontario Self-Employment Benefits Program. Really opened my life and my eyes to the whole idea and concept of being an entrepreneur.
I'll come back to you in a moment just to find out more about how the program works. But I'm just thinking, because we're talking about you bouncing around to all these contract jobs. Marie-France, you were working for Industry Canada on programs to support small business, right? So
feels like full circle.
You would have known, though, about the risks at that point. You would have known what you were getting. And then, like Jarrod, you would have known what you were getting into.
Oh, yeah, I have no excuse.
What is it like to be living that risk now yourself?
Well, I think with age, I built, healthy tolerance to risk. And risk is, once you identify the risk, you can put a plan in place to manage it. You'll never totally get rid of risk, but you can manage it intelligently. And I think one of the key factors for success in entrepreneurship is to be surrounded with competent people. And so the first step that I took, and I'm a big supporter of Invest Ottawa, which is the economic development agency in Ottawa. And so I approached them way in advance, about 2 years before I started my project, to get some information from them. I attended some of their workshops. I got very good advice. I met actually my accountant at Invest Ottawa as well as my corporate lawyer.
Wow.
So I got the tools that I felt were necessary to manage that risk. I educated myself.
I'll come back to that in a sec, but I was wondering, do you miss the security
No, I don't, because I'm having way too much fun being my own boss and building my own business.
So, Jarrod, I mean, Marie-France was just mentioning the Invest Ottawa as being a major thing for you. You were mentioning the program with the Ontario government.
Actually, Marie-France brings up a couple of good points. One, the security of having a day job is essential. You know, if people want to know where their paychecks are coming from, especially if you have a family, it's tough to go on your own and become an entrepreneur. In my case, I had no choice. What, I was going to get another government job, like bounce another 6 months and be on EI again? So I had no choice. The way I approached being an entrepreneur was, I have to make this work. There is no plan B. If I don't make this work, then my dog's not going to eat. That's how serious I took this.
But that's a good motivation for success.
Yeah. And the other point that you raised was you met people through Invest Ottawa, a great organization in town, and you found a couple people to collaborate with. I realized 3 years ago, going into music is tough for anybody. Going into music with an ensemble like I have, that nobody's ever heard of. I mean, 4 saxophones, that's it. So I needed to do networking. And I took it to the nth degree. I used to go to 7 or 8 networking events a week to make these connections and collaborate with people.
And when you say networking events, like what?
Entrepreneur networking events. You go to a room full of business professionals. You don't know a single soul in the room. That's a good event.
But some people have told me about those events where they head in, you've got everybody pitching more than they want to receive, shall we say. Well, there's a lot of pitches. Well, this is what I'm doing. Well, this is what I'm doing. Well, this is what I'm doing. And there's nobody there to say, well, here, I've got the money to help that. Or not even money, but I've got the resources or direction.
Well, that's I hear that quite often now. And so many people go to network events. They give 100 business cards and they say, I didn't get anything out of it. Well, that's a networking skill. They call it a skill. You get better at it the more you go to it. And the more networking events you are for whatever business you are in, you have to network. You have to tell people what you're doing. I mean, saying, oh, I'm starting half full. Have you ever heard of it before? No. Well, you have to get out there and connect with people. And
go ahead.
And going out there and offering to help people at networking events. I give workshops once in a while on networking. So through my efforts of promoting Sax Appeal, I became very proficient at these events, and I started hosting my own now, and they're called eSAX. And I bring together the entrepreneur community with the collaboration of different chambers of commerce, and primarily for startups.
So, Marie-France, before I let you go, you've been talking about the positive side here. Are there challenges in running their own business?
I guess there are, especially at the beginning when you're building a business. You have to invest yourself totally. So it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's hard to find sometimes a balance between your personal life and the life of an entrepreneur. So that's definitely a challenge. But again, I sort of knew what I was getting into, and so I embraced it.
Congratulations to both of you for being able to pursue what you wanted to, and here's hoping that in 5 years we have you back and you're running the world at that point. Marie-France Marquis,
cheers to that.
Take it day at a time.
Of Half Full Glassware and Accessories in Westboro. Jarrod Goldsmith is the founder of the sax quartet Sax Appeal, and we've got links to their businesses up on our website. And Jarrod's new venture called eSAX, a networking group for entrepreneurs. You can find out more about that at esax.ca. Tonight on CBC TV, you're going to see the last part of the series Work Shift. We've got the story of a jobless political science grad who ditched his search for full-time work to go into business for himself. That's on CBC News Ottawa at 5, 5:30, and 6. A little bit later on All in a Day, we'll explain the next chapter in our work series, which we need your help for. That's coming up after 5:30.
eSAX makes networking work.